Well, listeners, I have the infamous celebrity of fitness, Dave Wright, my friend. Dave, thanks for joining us. Great to see you in Madrid, by the way.
Oh, man, it was great to see you over there. What a great networking opportunity to catch up with so many great people in the industry.
It was nice. Thanks for making time in the late afternoon. I understand you just did some golf and a little paddle and you had a full day of activity. I saw your MEPS. It looked very impressive.
Why not? What's the best way to have discussions? Training, exercising with customers and friends and industry people, killing two birds with one stone. I mean, what could one want?
That's correct. And so what prompted this is, folks, I hope you follow Dave as I do on LinkedIn, because he always, he's well followed and a lot of engagement. But more recently, Dave had posted a question about this AI thing, which everyone seems to talk about. And it got a lot of interaction, and I got on there with him and said, hey, let's chat about this, because I think more people need to chat about and discuss this, honestly. And you had said rightly so. Why don't you describe the context of the post for the audience, and they can go look at it themselves. Go ahead.
Yeah, look, my question was, is AI doing anything for the industry? Is there anything out there that's really helping the industry? Excuse me. I mean, obviously, operational efficiency, I get, heavy lifting, but are we sort of like, are we thinking that that's our savior? And are we sort of like thinking that is the thing that's going to get the industry across the line? In the same way as during COVID, everyone was like, oh, the fitness industry's dead. Everyone's going to be doing at-home training and virtual classes and all this. But have we seen anything that's changed? And I think based on the interaction, I think I sort of like I've not had anyone come back and go, well, this is great. This is the solution here. Because my view is, well, look, are we just using it as an excuse so that we don't talk to our customers?
That's right. I think that's a legitimate. I mean, I'm involved with a few AI companies that are really about improving efficiencies and understanding for management, et cetera. Some automation, but you're right. I mean, there's many questions. This is maybe you think a fair statement. There are probably as many, if not many more questions about the implications of this than there are what the tool in theory can do itself. We were discussing before we got on here some examples of what that means. I mean, at what cost are you going to do this? I mean, it's not all rosy. I mean, I don't know about you, and again, I'm a big advocate of technology. You as well. You were, founder of a significant technology contributor to the industry space. I mean, you think about Meta, and it started out as building communities, and the algorithms started creating all kinds of unforeseen consequences. What do you think about that, Dave?
Look, many years ago, someone had said was that if something's free, when apps came out, if it's free, someone's making money out of your data. That's right. And even now, if you're paying for it, people are still making money out of your data. I think there's a lot of people in the industry, in the world really, that don't realize the impact of a lot of the actual free AI tools out there, because that just literally goes to an open source where everyone can see what you're doing and what you're thinking. So many operators, many companies need to be really worried about whether it's a lockdown AI, because if not, and particularly if you're talking about your members or any data, you're actually breaching the PII, the personal information to the world, and you could get yourself in a lot of trouble accordingly, thinking that you're doing the right thing, saving a little bit in time, but you've got to really look at the implications of AI.
Yes, and there's psychological aspects to this, like a lot of conversations you've heard lately, where there are a lot of people using these tools to help them think, and then what are the implications of that neurologically, et cetera, when it comes to making people dumber. I mean, you can see there are plenty of stories and research that's fairly credible. And by the way, we'll have Dave's post linked in the show notes so everybody can look at it. I'll share some of these other studies. But just kids and reading comprehension. I mean, Norway is an example where they started giving kids iPads at an early age and started tracking their a bunch of aspects of their capability to read, interpret, do other things, and started getting huge declines in reading comprehension. So they're also user experience, because we know that people are going to their AIs and asking them for feedback on training and nutrition and all that's great. But what happens when these companies need money and revenue and they start selling that information to various businesses who then are giving you data in a context that is designed for them to make money, to your point?
And I think it's a valid point there. What AI does is it actually accelerates tasks for you. So people say, oh, does it replace jobs? It actually, what it does is it epitomizes tasks. So, for example, and I've got no financial involvement in this. A lot of people sit there and have AI that automatically respond to emails. So,
Yeah.
and I think the amount of people that I've heard when they've applied for jobs have got this AI response, and I don't know whether that's the right solution. So you're basically passing your thinking over to someone else. Now, I am a big user of Whisperflow, if you're familiar with Whisperflow. Now, Whisperflow, for those that don't know, is effectively it's Siri for your phone and your laptop, but it's AI. So it sorts your grammar and your spelling out, and so you can literally talk to it for a message or an email or a WhatsApp. You can talk to it whenever a keyboard pops up, and then what it does is it compresses what you're trying to say, so it gets rid of the ers, the ums, and all this. So it makes it more efficient, but I'm still thinking. It's still my words, and that's a sort of like, that's where I'll go, because I can actually get my thoughts out 250 words a minute rather than say typing at 100 words a minute. And so it's things like that that actually help in regards to the efficiency, but I think the thinking side of it, is crazy. I've had a mate of mine who's an architect, and he actually basically says all the time, if he puts in various plans or whatever to a client, then they send back reports saying, oh, have you thought about this, and this, which they've simply thrown into Claude or ChatGPT.
Yep.
And he can tell that they've just thrown into it. And he actually did an experiment where he went, okay, what's your thoughts on this project? And he went from Claude to ChatGPT to Claude to Chat, and it just kept kicking out questions and questions. And I don't think after about 5 or 6 times, he was no closer to it, because there was no real thinking behind it.
Yeah, that's a great example of context. Like, because if you use tools without really understanding context, you can really go off the rails, right? I mean, and that doesn't add as well, because you see a lot of vendors out there now, selling their wares of automation in the space. That's a great example, because I've seen case study where certain automations on, for example, handling inbound and outbound lead gen, done under the auspices of automating and making things more efficient, just get terrible examples of UX. I mean, just the worst kind of stuff you could ever imagine. Have you seen some of those, for example?
Oh, it is actually quite funny. And it's not just the fitness industry, other industries do it. And you're sitting there just going, oh gosh, I'm talking to an AI chatbot. This is not, and it becomes frustrating as a customer, And I think that's what people have to be wary of, is the, I get it for, I mean, the way I see AI, and Bryan, you might have a different take on it, is that when people explain that to me, all I think is It is a enormous computer that processes information at lightning speed.
Right.
So it's Google on steroids, or it's a faster version of Google. So and that's the fun. Machine learning is not new. You've probably heard when I've done speeches where there was a guy. I put this video on, audio on, of this guy talking about effectively machine learning and how you understand how policy is made, and how that can, in the future, will be relevant in health and well-being. And he says there'll be a lot of money made. That was in 1976.
Yeah.
It's Leonard Schiffer, and he just talks about it. But the ability to understand and process that information, which there is a place of machine learning, being able to process that information so that you can make better judgments, and add that human element of it. And you can't replace AI really with a human interaction and what you see and the nuances in body language. It's not going to be there.
No, it's not. I agree with that. And I really think it's a cautionary tale for companies that are trying to adopt technologies without fundamental constructs around what in the hell are they really trying to do and why. Because you can out-efficiency yourself right out of business. I mean, you can step over dollars to pick up dimes, and that's not a good business strategy.
No, you're absolutely spot on with that, and I think that's where it sort of like it can come undone, where people are spending so much time. I mean, look, we're a tech company, so we have developers and all this, and I was chatting to our former CTO, and I said, what's your take on this new AI? And he said, look, there are so many consultants out there selling the virtues of it. Oh, look what I can do. I can build you an app in 10 seconds and all this. But what they do, like many consultants, they build the framework, but there's no substance under it. There's no, and it might look dazzling from the top, but then after a while you sort of like go, hang on a minute, it's like when you see those photos where it's like, hang on, he's got 6 fingers.
Yeah,
that's what's happening with when you take a step back and you look and you go, oh, that looks great. That what they've done with this image is just like, hang on a minute. When you look into it, why have they got 6 fingers?
That's right. Yeah, you're right. You built a tech company, and look, we're not. I think we agree. We're not anti-tech at all, and I'm a big believer in adopting new technology, but just be careful with what you're wishing for. And another thing I mentioned, and again, not naming names or trying to get anybody in any trouble or get anyone upset at me, but I really think that a lot of businesses, they're not really paying attention to their user license agreements necessarily. They're not really asking the question, well, why is this free? Or what is your real business model? Because you can have the greatest technologies in the world, but if the incentives aren't aligned, you can be doing things that you really don't understand what the bad impacts of that are to your customers. I think you alluded to this a little earlier.
I don't mind giving an example to say someone like Apple or Android. Yeah, people say, oh, what we'll do is we'll open up our members to Apple and all this. Do you not think they are just they are just salivating about getting the information about your members and your member usage? That's not because they want to make sure that you have a better experience and you're going to boost your retention. Oh, hell no. They are there to line their own pockets.
That's correct.
As a perfect example. And the one thing that we did with MyZone as the absolute get-go, it's the aggregation of the data. So when someone registers their MyZone account, it links to the facility. So whenever they work out, you get visibility of the data. It doesn't go to Apple. It doesn't go to Android. It goes to you and your facility. And I did that deliberately as an operator myself. You know, do I want just to literally go, oh look, I'll open this up to and push everything through to Apple, and you know, all my member data through them. Just like, well, for what benefit?
That's right.
They're going to benefit from it.
That's right. And God only knows what they're going to do with it. I mean, we could come with many scenarios. They could be remarketing other alternative products that are competitive to you. They could be, I mean, there's a whole slew of things that could be being done that are really not in your best interest. I mean, look at Amazon. You know, they take in data of vendors that sell on the platform and then figure out what products that they want to private label to compete. And they have all the data to do it. And there's nothing that prohibits them from doing this. So, you know, you can really put yourself in a real bad position. You know, and there are plenty of examples throughout history, you know, with the airline industry where, you know, airlines really allowed aggregators for a long time to drive reservation systems until they started understanding what they were giving away. And so they started investing in their own ecosystems and app infrastructures, because they didn't have the benefit of that to create not only a better user experience, but to avoid having that used against them. Because if I'm an aggregator and I know what Delta and British Airways and Air France and all these other people are doing around you, I can do all kinds of things with that that's not in your best interest as a provider.
Yeah, I mean, look, I'm not too sure I'm allowed to mention names, but you've got, and this is actually not, you know, an aggregator is, say, in the paddle world, something like Playtomic.
Yep.
If you're familiar with Playtomic, and I use Playtomic all the time because as a consumer, I sit there and I go, where have we played paddle this afternoon after golf, and I just went, okay, let me look at Playtomic. Where is available court at 5 p.m. today? And literally went around. Now, the funny thing about it is that there's no loyalty to a particular paddle center, and the whole thing with that is what Playtomic do, rightly or wrongly, is they'll go out to developers, and we had an example of a guy who opened a center in my town, in Lincolnshire, in Lincoln. And I said to the owner, I said, why did you open in Lincoln? You're from Mansfield, you're an hour away, and you haven't opened there. Why have you opened here? And he said, oh, Playtomic said, we've got 8,000 people registered from Lincoln, and it's an underserviced population. Yep. So they're selling that data, so that therefore they opened a site there on Playtomic, and they did that. Now, that rightly or wrongly, but it's just that it's that data side that you've got to be a little bit cautious of. And I think I'm sure everyone is familiar with the famous 1986, I think it was, Target case study. So Target had got exposed because and people can Google this and read about it, and they'll get it right. They'll get it better than me. Was effectively they got a new CMO, and so Target could tell when someone was pregnant. You know, if they were in the market for baby gear by their credit card spend. And there was a situation where there was a 16-year-old girl that started getting marketed to about cots and buying cots and nappies of diapers or whatever. And the father came in and said, this is terrible. What are you marketing to my 16-year-old and all this? And then 2 weeks later, found out that her daughter was pregnant. But Target knew beforehand because of the buying behavior. And it really, really shook the industry up in regards to the data that's out there. And now we've got AI, where the processing power is extreme and it's and instantaneous. And that's the thing that. But the same rules apply regarding, yes. As it, if you've got an app and And if it's free, someone's making money out of your eyeballs.
Yep. Yeah, no, that's right. And I would say that, advice I'm curious to get your advice on this. And again, thanks for jumping on quick late in the afternoon after your wonderful post, and check Dave's post out. We'll have the links, and we'll also have the link to that Target report that he references, so you can see for it yourself. I mean, generally, because I use Claude, I use a few tools and I use them, pretty effectively. I like to think. There's some certain things I don't do with it now, like automating replies and emails and things like this. But, I would say that having worked with a lot of different companies that are in our space working with AI tools, number one, my advice to anybody that's doing this work now is try to do it with companies that they have a lot of context and understanding of implementation from a real world operator's perspective. If you're going to go with a pure tech, just be very wary of who you're doing this with and who you're getting advice from and why, because there are all these misaligned incentives that can exist that really, or alternatively, you're looking at tools and they work more in the world of theory, which can be very cool, but not as much in the world of reality about how do you do this in a way that isn't going to harm you, it's going to help you. And doing the things like invest more in human interactions at prime points of contact, or other things where, you're really accentuating and advancing your business model in a way that makes, economic sense and contextual, and not trying to do too much too fast, and understanding that while this is cool, there are some consequences that you better be paying attention to. What would your advice be? That's kind of an oversimplification for me, but
no. For many, many years, I tell a story that for my gyms, I get my staff to take notes of when they've had conversations with people. So take notes. So you've had a human interaction, and under the membership management system, under the person's name, in a private section, have a little bit of information about it. So that because I try and say to my staff is that knowing. Pointing out to someone and say, tell me about that person there. Oh, that's Bryan. What else? Oh, I don't know. It's just Bryan. Well, you haven't really engaged in a conversation. And
right.
And I use a perfect example, and this is probably 20 odd years ago, is that I was walking into one of my clubs and I saw a lady on the treadmill, and she didn't realize, because the membership management system was at the reception. So, and I'd sort of like, I knew it was Marie. And so I went around to the actual membership management, and I had a look, and I saw that that Kelsey had spoken to her, and she was actually going to be trekking the Inca Trail. And so that's what she was trying to get in shape for. So with that knowledge, I went over to Marie and I said, "Oh, hi Marie. Kelsey tells me that you're trekking Machu Picchu." And she's like, "Oh, great." I said, "Oh, maybe we should increase the incline on this treadmill for you." Now, the smile on her dial after that, and it was a simple interaction. Was just so. Tell me how many operators do that. Now that's information that's there, that's presented, but it's the human element on that where you can use it for your advantage. Now, what I'm sure AI consultants will say is, well, when she swipes her card, it should actually come in and say, a notification to say, "Oh, Marie, you should increase your height on the treadmill." But the reality is getting that information in the first, that human interaction, and it can't. AI, there's a lot of stuff that it can't do, and people see right through it. There's a lot of lift stuff in that it does lift, i.e. that fast processing. You've not exercised for a while, you're a high risk member, or your behavior's changed, and again, it's down to the intelligence and the thinking of what you want it to do.
Correct.
And that's the one thing in the tech space that I've learnt is that you've got to be really clear. Technology doesn't deal with ambiguity.
No,
Because if it's crap in, it'll be crap out.
that's true. That's the truth. Well, before you leave us, Dave, what's the latest at MyZone? I know you're doing a lot of different things. I love the Garmin thing that was announced at FIBA, which is fantastic. I know you have some other things going on. I've been following the business. Y'all have really made some strides on the product recently.
Yeah, look, it's the one thing that I had this conversation with Jay Blanick from Apple. You know Jay, obviously, who's from the fitness industry, and he launched the Apple Watch. The issue with say wrist-based devices is that it's not technology, it's physiology. And so understanding, and when we launched the Switch, the MyZone Switch, which is the world's first interchangeable heart rate, where you can switch it from your wrist to your forearm to your chest. Wrist and forearm is obviously using optical, which is pulse, which is the same as Garmin, okay, or Apple or Android or whatever. That's great if you're walking, a repetitive movement of the wrist. So if you're going for a walk, it's fine. If you're going for a swim, it's fine. Particularly if you're on a cross trainer, it's fine. But any non-repeatable movement, it actually, it's not that it will catch up. It just can't catch up. And that's why understanding the different modalities. So yes, did we launch Garmin? I love Garmin. I literally, they invented GPS. You know, they invented, they're world leaders, and they did it for boating, didn't they? So that's why Garmin with cyclists and all this is great, but for golf, it's insane. I know exactly, you know, how far I am. Not that it makes any bloody difference when I hit the when I hit the shot, but at least I know how I've messed up. But the thing with the MyZone interaction is that I can play a game of golf, and then once I click save, that workout is fed straight into MyZone. Now, what I do is if I go for a walk, I just can use my Garmin. If I'm going to go to the gym and if I'm going to do burpees or if I'm going to swing a kettlebell, that is not going to be accurate. Nor is MyZone on your wrist. But on the forearm or the chest, it'll be more accurate. So we're sort of like, double down on the accuracy, but also offering clubs. That's a $60, $70 device versus an $1,000 device, and not all members. But what we're helping operators do is that if you do have members that sit there and say, hey, look, we want to start with Apple or Android, and we're going to go down this route, then they can actually, that data can be fed into your ecosystem, ecosystem, and that's where the rubber really hits the road. So we're sort of like doubling down on that and the accuracy, and also being open. We're not going to build. We're not watch manufacturers. We build community. For those that don't know, MyZone's a wearable technology and social platform that rewards effort for physical activity. That's effectively where we do. So we've got a lot of exciting stuff around the corner. A lot of exciting and stuff. Are we using AI? Absolutely, to understand member behavior and to be able to sort of like accelerate the information with accurate data, which is that's collected through MyZone, and being able to present that to operators so that they can have a better, meaningful interaction. But the one thing I would say, and I'm sure Bryan, you'd probably agree with this, you can have all the information in the world, right? But if you don't use it, what's the whole point? And the way I describe that with, say, with MyZone, if I've got a capability that someone's doing a group class, and I can actually see on the screen their name, one, and how hard they're working out, what a great opportunity to be able to engage with them. And there's nothing worse if you go to a club and they've got their name on the screen and they've got how hard they're working out, and it's not even referenced from the instructor. Right. That's where the drawback is.
Yeah, absolutely true. Dave, thanks for taking some time to chat about this. I'm grateful that you made the post and you said, let's hop on and chat about it for the community at large. And I look forward to seeing you across the pond here in the coming weeks.
Always looking forward to catching up, and thanks for what you do for the fitness industry in technology, AI, everything, and staying ahead of the game. You're the industry's go-to person, Bryan. So I really appreciate it.
Well, I think you are that. But anyway, I appreciate the kind words. I'm going to see you soon.
See you, mate.